Hi plant people! Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about things class related, and then I wanted to get into how we can incorporate herbs into our lifestyle, which herbs are good for what to start as a base, and then I wanted to talk about how herbalism is deeply connected with the natural world and how herbalists use elements to describe different constitutions of the body and of herbs, and then I'll get into some native plants which reside on Wiyot territory near HSU. So first thing that I wanted to touch on was the journal entries. I hope that it is a very fun component in class for you all, and they are not graded. You're not supposed to be turning them in. They're just to kind of get the ball rolling for you and figure out what spaces and forms herbalism might take in your own life. I hope that they're inspiring and try to connect you to the herbalist realm a little bit more. So I encourage you to go as deep as you can with them, really get reflective, and see what intersections are in your own life. So incorporating herbs into lifestyle. So I hope by now that we can aim for doing maybe one thing herbal every day, whether that's having a ritual of tea. It's really nice to brew a cup of tea and relax and block out about 15 to 20 minutes to just enjoy that cup of tea and see what you can learn from it, whether the energetics of the herbs are making you feel some way, or if it's just some time to relax and enjoy a delicious cup of tea. That is wonderful. I have an altar myself, and this is common for herbalists or plant people to have. You can make a space for some of your favorite dried herbs and maybe put any gems or stones that you have around them. And you can almost think of it as a meditation altar or something that reminds you to be mindful. It's another way that we can incorporate herbs, and then you can just look at it or walk over to it. Another way to incorporate herbs into lifestyle is to go on plant walks, which is really fun. They can be anywhere from 5 minutes to hours, and you can see which plants are growing around you and try to identify any of them. My favorite app to use when I'm out on a plant walk is Seek by iNaturalist, and it does a really wonderful job of identifying plants for you right there on the spot. It's a free app. And I typically go to the Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary, and recently I've been able to find wide-ribbed plantain, dandelion, periwinkle, yarrow, and hawthorn. Some really wonderful herbs. Yarrow is good for a range of things, particularly cystitis, but it's also really wonderful for setting boundaries on a more energetic and psychospiritual side of herbalism. Hawthorn berries are a wonderful tonic for the heart. So it helps to enliven the heart and regulate heart pressure and blood pressure. Although you want to be careful if someone has high blood pressure and are already on medications. Sometimes other heart herbs can interfere. So just something to think of. Another thing that you can do to incorporate herbs into your life is just to practice listening. Herbalists do this all the time, especially when we're meeting with people to discuss what herbs can do for them. We have to listen to see where can herbs step in. So taking moments to listen to what your own body might be asking of you today, or if there's a friend who could use something and feels a little tired or lethargic or something, I bet you can think of an herb that can cheer up their day or your day. And it's a really wonderful way to build relationships with other people. Gift giving through herbs is really fun. So with that, just practicing compassion when you're listening and being sure not to judge anything, but just to listen and assess what could help. Another way to incorporate herbs into lifestyle is to keep our skin hydrated during these winter months. So if you are thinking of making a salve, that would be awesome. Or you can look for them at the store too. I'm currently using a calendula and plantain salve, which helps to rebuild any broken skin or cuts or sores. Just another way to care for ourselves. Um, Another way you can incorporate herbs into lifestyle is by visiting an apothecary. If you haven't done this yet, I really encourage you to do this. You can find a wide range of herbal products, but you can actually create your own loose leaf tea. There are typically herbal blends around, but if you make your own, it's even more special. So if you're doing that, I recommend that you get equal parts of each herb. That's kind of the units that herbalists use, parts. So if you're making an entire cup of tea, you use 1/3 part of 3 different herbs. And you can, have a base herb that just kind of makes the bulk of it. You can use a supporting herb, which has a specific action, and you can flavor it. So you can use red raspberry leaf as a base, which is a great tonic for the female reproductive system. Supporting herb could be calendula, which helps to brighten the inside. And you can flavor it with licorice. And that would be a wonderful blend. But go experiment. It's really fun. It's all about trial and error and seeing what you could do to your tea blend next time. So that all being said, herbalism is very intentional, and as long as you have an intention with what you're doing, then you will be on the right track, whether it takes a little bit to get there. But definitely bring your intentions in, and intentions are a wonderful thing to have throughout the day. So if you're wondering, how do I start? There's so many things. I wanted to go over a brief list of categories of herbs. So adaptogens are these really wonderful herbs which help to help our bodies relieve stress. So these include ashwagandha and astragalus primarily, and they kind of just help our body restore its normal function. Tonics are also very similar, which help to enliven the body. And tonics can include chamomile and cayenne and dandelion, are some wonderful tonics which just help to restore the natural state of our body and remind it to function as best as it can. So one other category which I really like, especially in these winter months, as maybe our digestive systems tend to slow down a little bit with the cold weather, it totally makes sense. There are these things called bitters. And if you think about it, like the taste of a bitter actually stimulates our digestive system. So you want to take some bitters right before you eat a meal. And you want to isolate them. So typically you can make them or find them in a tincture form and put a few drops on your tongue and taste it. It's going to taste really herbal, which is awesome if you know that flavor I'm talking about. And it will help the peristalsis of our digestive tract get ready to process food, which is a wonderful way to help our health. And some wonderful bitters are gentian, hops, and wormwood. Very bitter, very delicious if you like that flavor. So as our fungal and mushroom allies remind us, everything is connected. If we think about the mycelium and the forest floor spanning over the base of miles, everything is connected. And that's kind of the framework that we use in herbalism. So we also like to consider elements in herbalism, in the natural environment, in our own bodies, in plants, as herbalism is founded upon the natural world, thanks to Indigenous folk for curating those relationships with plants and passing on that knowledge to us now. So as an example, if you're familiar with cayenne, kitchen spice, or ground herb, it's very heating. So you could say that its associated element is fire, and you can introduce it to someone's herbal program if they need some heating up. And if they're more a cold constitution, they could enliven themselves with some cayenne, and it's delicious for cooking. So I wanted to focus on the element of water today. It's one of the elements, and I just wanted to ask you the question, how does being around a body of water make you feel? You can pause and reflect and see if you have any special associations with this element and might know intuitively about it already. So water is a sacred resource. It provides life to all living beings, covers our planet. We ourselves are 70 to 99% water, depending on which scientific study you find, anywhere from 70 to 99%. The moon is also a really big factor in controlling the tides. And the moon is also a really wonderful cycle to study, and I encourage you to look more into it, or come to an office hour and talk with me about it if that is something that interests you. When there's the full moon and the new moon, kind of how water is responding during those states. And as Indigenous folk have been saying all along, water is life. And unfortunately, water is also under attack. It is being privatized, it's being polluted, there's unequal access to water, access is being denied, water is being dammed, it's being rerouted, and because of this, it's losing its natural structure. So in nature, water has a structure that resembles a liquid crystal. And due to pollution and bottling water and all of that stuff, it actually becomes bulk water, which is the coined term for when water loses its structure and it actually becomes less hydrating to individuals. So I wanted to bring that up so we can think about our stewardship to the land and think about how important water rights are, as water is so important in herbalism. It's also, I hope you're feeling called to protect the natural environment. And there's a whole range of websites where you can find out more about that. I can put them in the comments of this video. I also wanted to mention that water is highly responsive to consciousness, which is very cool. There was this scientist named Emoto, and he studied how water responds to human emotion, and it actually showed that you can see its structure. So I also put that in the comments of this video, or you can look up Emoto's experiment, just so we know what the element of water is and how intelligent and sentient it is. So it's kind of a general theme in herbalism. We regard the natural world as intelligent and respect it as such. So the general theme with water is that we have to keep it flowing, whether it's in the natural environment or in our own bodies. And when water stagnates, it causes a lot of issues. So stagnation in our own body can cause people to feel a little lethargic. It can pool our lymphatic fluids, meaning that our immune systems and defense tend to go down. And if we don't have enough water, it can be really dry, and that causes a lot of issues also. So we want to make sure as herbalists that we are giving herbs which increase circulation when necessary, if stagnation is present. some of my favorite herbs that increase circulation are dandelion primarily. Um, and licorice also helps to retain water. Um, and then there's also diaphoretics, such as water, which help to eliminate toxins from our skin through water. So when we perspire, it's actually a really healthy thing that our body is doing. Um, Movement also helps, just being holistic in herbalism. We can give herbs, but also you're able to get up and shake and move the water around. That is very helpful. Moving your lymphatic fluids and moving your blood around. It's all very helpful to overall health. Golden seal is a wonderful herb which helps to tonify the mucous membranes. Um, so, um, so golden seal is also a bitter and can help us when we're feeling a little lethargic or so. So it's wonderful as a tincture, and because it's very bitter, it's going to be very bitter in your tea if you choose to make it in a blend. So herbs that moisten our bodies are also called demulcents, and some wonderful demulcents include comfrey, marshmallow root, um, and aloe vera. Aloe vera is a wonderful one. You can take it internally, and you can also put it on your skin externally, and it's a wonderful skin soother, whether it's in the winter months or if you have a sunburn in the summer. You can just chop a aloe vera leaf, typically find one at the grocery store, and apply it directly to your body. Herbs that are drying when there's maybe an excess of water, black pepper is a wonderful herb which can help to dry out extra moisture. Herbs that are heating are ginger and cayenne, which I think are wonderful, especially during these winter months, which can help kind of move the stagnation around. And some herbs are cooling when maybe there's a hot dampness. And mugwort can be really great for that. It's really bitter and very cooling, similar to wormwood. Fire cider is a wonderful herbal remedy, which typically has cayenne and other spices in it, as well as some elderflower to boost the immune system, and a range of other things I encourage you to look into. And what I wanted to mention about fire cider is that there was a little bit of a controversy about it in the herbalist community. So fire cider has been around for many generations. It's something that the recipe has been shared, although recipes alter from each other. And there was a company who tried to trademark fire cider and make it so no one else could call their herbal remedies fire cider, which is a big problem. I hope you can realize the privatization of herbalism is a big no-no, and thankfully there are many herbalists which were able to speak up and prevent that from happening. Herbalism is not about stealing or gatekeeping, and I just think that's interesting that someone tried to trademark fire cider. So that's kind of the darker underside of herbalism, things that can happen. Like white sage. Also, white sage is a wonderful plant that has been used by Indigenous folk in ceremony, and it's a wonderful plant which people typically use to burn and clear the mind and cleanse negative energy. When you inhale smoke, it's also called smudging when you do that. And there are many herbs to smudge with, because white sage is actually being over harvested by herbal companies or unsustainable wildcrafters. So it's actually leaving its home environment, and there's not enough left for the people who originally curated the relationship with it. So there are so many alternatives, and it's important that we talk about these things in herbalism so that we can really be the most connected to the natural environment and our communities. Garden sage is a wonderful sage, and you can grow it yourself. I have it growing in my kitchen right now. So last thing in this video, I just wanted to go over some native plants around here on Wiyot territory, which is where HSU is. One of my favorites is stinging nettles. And you might have met this plant and it might have been uncomfortable because it stings you. It actually increases your circulation when you do that. And although it hurts, it'll go away. And if you do get stung, just try to think that it's increasing your circulation. And remember, it'll go away soon. But taken internally, you can harvest it with gloves so you don't have to get stung every time. And it's a really widely applicable herb, and it's another tonic for our body. And it's really great for the skin and eliminating toxins. Western red cedar is another wonderful native plant that is around here, and it's used to ground as a smudge. So you can collect the tips of the tree and tie them in a string, dry them out, and once they're dry, you can actually smudge them, and the effects are very grounding. If you think of a tree, how grounded a tree might be. Mugwort is another native plant around here. It's one of my favorites. People have been using it for so long. There's moxibustion, used in traditional Chinese medicine and with Indigenous folk practices, and it's used in cupping. It's really great to relieve period pains, and it's really wonderful aiding the digestive system. California poppy, that bright orange flower, is another native plant, and it's a sedative, meaning that it's very relaxing, and it's safe enough for children to use. So it's usually introduced to children who are a little restless, feeling anxious, having trouble with sleeping. You can take it as a tincture because it's very bitter in a tea, and you'll need lots of other herbs to mask the flavor, or a lot of honey. And it's also suggested for colic pain. St. John's wort is a beautiful native plant that blossoms in yellow flowers in the summertime. And it's one of these plants that takes a while to run its course in our system. So it can take up to a month to notice the difference, but it is pain reducing. It's a long-term pain reducer. It's also an antidepressant. And it's a mild sedative, so wonderful wherever there's pain, but like a lot of herbs, it's important that we take them as early as we can so we can really, you know, see the effects as soon as we can, even if it's a month to 2 months. Another wonderful native plant is mountain grape or Oregon grape. It's anti-cartal, so it can clear the blockages in our body, in our sinuses, lymphatic systems, or our blood, and it's a mild laxative. Salal is another wonderful native plant around here. It's this pretty big green bush and has these gorgeous white flowers and berries on it, and it's been used by Indigenous folk as a cough medicine or a gastrointestinal aid. So I mentioned all of these native plants to you all because I hope that we can practice our stewardship and kind of feel this sense of belonging to the land, and be called to restore the environment and know about the native plants. Because if they weren't there, we wouldn't be able to know about them or use them in any way, or use their teachings. So I wanted to leave you with this thought or question. If you can imagine what it would be like if everyone knew the native plants around us and cared for them and made sure that none of them went extinct, how powerful of a community we could have, and how much herbal knowledge could be shared, and how much joy we could leave with the environment and share with. So I want you to imagine what that harmony would look like. And knowing native plants is a wonderful way to do that. So go on your plant walks, look around for plants around you, and especially look for those that I mentioned above. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't made a cup of tea yet, please go ahead and do that. I'll catch you soon. Thanks for listening.